Hi, everyone. We are here tonight with the Nonprofit Help Desk to present New York City Council Discretionary Funding question and answer with our guest speaker, Joe Kovac, who is the Senior Director of Discretionary Contract Review and Compliance for the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development. I'm Tamara Kashecki. I will be your pilot here today. Feel free to ask any questions you like of me in the chat. That are related to discretionary funding. We're also here joined this evening by our fearless leader, Amy Fiore, who is the director of the Nonprofit Help Desk. And Amy, I'm going to toss it to you.
Thank you, Tamara, and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today, to learn together and to ask really important questions so that you can successfully execute your programming through the funding. The Nonprofit Help Desk is a program of the Jewish Community Council of Greater Coney Island. We offer free live workshops, an archive of past workshops, which is available at our website at nphd.org. We also have an active LinkedIn community that we encourage you to follow, ask questions on, tag us in as things are going on for the nonprofit community. We want to hear from you there. And for New York City nonprofit organizations, we offer free expert support. What that is if you have a question, think of us as your Geek Squad. If you have a nonprofit specific question about, I'll come to that in a second. If you have a specific nonprofit question, you can fill out a form at nphd.org and we can help you with that. Tell you more about that in a sec. Tamara, if you wouldn't mind advancing the slide. Our free workshops, this is just a smattering of what we have offered this year. We are back in session with a bunch of discretionary expense funding workshops for granted organizations. Tonight is included in that. We also have capacity building, broad topics that we cover on a lot of different areas. The next one coming up, the one that closes out the general workshops, is on Tuesday, June 10th for getting started with grants, and then we'll be starting up next year. If you see any on this screen that you missed or anything else you want to see that we've done, again, nphd.org. We have an archive of all of our old videos. It's a great way to get caught up, and we would love to see you there. If you wouldn't mind advancing the slide one more time. And as I said, we do offer one-on-one expert help in discretionary funding, fundraising, promotion, legal, IT, leadership, etc. We want to know what your specific questions are. So just like your Geek Squad, something's not working for you, you want a little bit of expert advice, we have specialists that are available. You just have to fill out a form at nphd.org, and we look forward to hearing from you. That's all for me. Thank you so much, Joe and Tamara, and our council offices who have made these workshops and all of our programming possible through your discretionary and very generous funding.
So we're really excited tonight to be joined by Amari Johnson, who is here from Speaker Adrian Adams' office. Amari, we'd love to have you say a few words, please.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Amari Johnson. I am the District Scheduling Coordinator and Interim Events Director for Council Speaker Adrian E. Adams, and it is a pleasure of mine to be able to represent the Speaker's office tonight. I did want to say that the Speaker wished that she could make it, but she had, a little bit of a scheduling conflict. However, she sends her best regards just to everybody that's on. The Speaker is so excited to be able to co-sponsor such an event like this. And I give a huge thank you to the Jewish Community Council for putting on and hosting this very important webinar. And so I just charge everybody that's on to just take as much information as you can to be able to assist you in the discretionary funding process. It is extremely important and very crucial. And so I'm just excited to be able to hear all of the great tips and things that we can use to be helpful for our constituents. So thank you.
Thank you, Amari. We're also going to be joined by someone from Councilmember Lewis's office, I believe is here.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. Thank you all so much for joining this forum. And thank you again, Tamara, for your assistance and your partnership in presenting and putting this together with us. My name is Daniel Heredia. I'm the Legislative Communications Liaison for Councilmember Farrah Lewis. And I want to just mainly convey tonight that we are so happy to prioritize this partnership we've had with the Nonprofit Help Desk, with the JCC GCI for so many years, as the council member knows that in order to bring these resources into our districts, we have to make sure that folks have the support they need from the municipal government, as well as the knowledge to know how to access these resources. Especially this year, we know that a number of organizations had had distinct challenges in drawing down funds, which is why the council member has been pushing for integrated sessions to make sure we know that there's a direct line of communication to our agencies from our nonprofit organizations to ensure that we make sure that no one is left behind and no dollars are left on the table, especially as every cent counts in terms of getting resources for our community. So again, I want to thank you, Tamara, for your work on putting this forum together. We're really excited to have Joe from DYCD join us this evening, and we really appreciate all of the support he has given our office in navigating challenges with our organizations, and hope you all learn a lot from this forum and this convening tonight. Thank you.
Daniel, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Just want to do a quick thank you on all of our other funders and supporters here at the JCC GCI's Nonprofit Help Desk, which includes co-sponsorship from both Speaker Adams as well as Councilmember Lewis, and also Council members Brannan, Hudson, Verdikoff, Joseph, and Zhang. So thank you to everyone who's been supporting the work that we do here. Excited tonight to bring to you Joe Kovac, who is again the Senior Director of Discretionary Contract Review and Compliance at DYCD. And Joe, I'm going to let you take it from here. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you so much for everyone attending tonight's session. I just want to first thank the JCC, Rabbi Wiener, and the entire team for the Nonprofit Help Desk that has helped so many organizations through the year. Obviously, Speaker Adams and her staff, as well as Daniel and Councilmember Lewis and all of the other council members that we work with. Just a little bit about me. I am the Senior Director of the Discretionary Portfolio for DYCD, where DYCD handles about 2/3 of all what they consider expense funded discretionary programs. So it would not include any capital projects, any structures, buildings, or anything of that sort, but any type of programs on the expense side, DYCD handles about 2/3. So DYCD, we invest in a network of community-based organizations and programs to alleviate the effects on poverty and provides opportunities for New Yorkers and communities to flourish. Next slide, please. So I'm going to go through a couple of things that I always go through in our provider meetings. We have about 15 provider meetings each year, which if you have not taken part of, I would strongly recommend when we start them again in September that you attend them. We do them virtually. We also do them in person. So there are many different ways to get there. So we do have what's called a conflict of interest policy that is written into the contract. What it basically is, it goes through provisions that are in the city charter, provisions that are in what's called the Procurement Policy Board rules and guidelines. That's the governing body as to how contracts are executed and delivered with the city of New York. So if we go to the next slide, it will go through some sections regarding the boilerplate. There's board of director requirements, which means that you need to have at least 3 board members if none of them are related. If they are related, then you would need to have at least 5, right, board members. We need every organization to have a conflict of interest policy that it has to be written into your bylaws, into your governing documents. And Section 4.06 details and relates to improper related party transactions. The most common improper related party transaction is if a board member owns a space and that board member is going to lease that space to the organization. That is what's considered an improper related party transaction. On future slides, you'll see that there are exclusions to that rule if the amount is trivial in nature, if it's in the organization's best interest. So, for example, if the average rent in your area, in your neighborhood, is $7,000 a month rent, and if a board member was going to charge the organization, say, $4,000 per month, that may be permissible if you get the approval of our general counsel's office. But if the board member wants to charge market value for the rent, so they want to charge $7,000, that would not be approved, because then the board member is receiving a financial benefit as defined in improper related party transactions. Next slide, please. So again, we don't want any nepotism. It's pretty common sense. So like I wouldn't be able to hire anyone who was related to me or anyone that I had a relationship with at DYCD. Since I am a senior director, we wouldn't want that of our nonprofits as well. So the executive director cannot hire any family members or anyone that they have a relationship with. Next slide, please. Uh, I mentioned already exceptions to the board of director requirements, that the contractor's employees and immediate family members may serve on the board, right? If the board has more than 5 members, that they are not compensated, and that the individual does not directly report to the person that they have a relationship with. Next slide. Conflicts of interest within the workplace, this applies on the city level, plus every organization, every contractor that contracts with the city, who is defined as an immediate family member. It's a spouse, domestic partner, father, father-in-law, mother, mother-in-law, brother, brother-in-law, sister, sister-in-law, etc. You see the list. Relatives of a domestic partners are considered immediate family members in the same way that in-laws are. So that would not be permissible. Next slide. Conflict of interest policy, as I mentioned before, we need to have every organization have a written conflict of interest policy that stands for your organization. What it has to do, it has to define what a conflict of interest is, what the policies are, what are the requirements for reporting it, any prohibition against retaliation or by the person that has the conflict of interest trying to influence the decision, that if there is a conflict of interest, it must be documented, it must be written. Anything of substance should be mentioned at the board of director meetings, and it should be documented in the minutes of the meeting. That there should be procedures in place for disclosing, addressing, and documenting related party transactions, and whoever has those requirements must submit annually to the board secretary any any potential conflict of interest. Next slide. This is in the boilerplate. It says conflicts of interest with city employees or officials. That's why when you apply for discretionary funding, there's a conflict of interest policy that every organization must fill out and submit to the city council, that there's no conflict of interest with the city council members or with any city employees. Next slide. I already discussed improper related party transactions. Generally speaking, again, it deals with space rental. Next slide. I already mentioned about the trivial value. that the board determined that the transaction is fair and in the nonprofit's best interest, or that it's of trivial value. Next slide. This is something that's new. It started in 2023, the space cost allocation form. All of this information must be filled out. You must provide direct program services in order to charge rent to the contract. That's number one. But the change is really on page 2, which is on the next slide, which is where you would have to indicate that the landlord is a director, which means that they're on the board of directors of the nonprofit. That any person who manages the contract or affiliate is not the landlord. So all of these questions have to be taken a look at, and they have to be responded. If anything is checked other than number 6, we would need approval from our general counsel's office. Next slide. All right, if you have any questions about conflict of interest, you can contact DYCD legal at dycd.nyc.gov. Next slide. Okay, so this slide, and I hope tomorrow that you share the slide with everyone that attends today's meeting. This goes into the insurance requirements that are required in order to contract with DYCD. So I'm going to just really summarize it quickly. If you have any paid staff, you must have disability insurance in place, workers' compensation, and paid family leave. That's no exception. For general liability insurance, you can have your own policy as long as the policy conforms to the requirements of our insurance unit and our legal unit, then it will be accepted. If not, you can buy into the city's central insurance program, which is 4.5% of your budget. Next slide. If there are any questions about insurance, our insurance team has their own dedicated email box, dycdinsurance@dycd.nyc.gov. Next slide. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit of the fiscal operations for your contracts. It depends upon how much money you have been allocated by the city council, which will determine if you would do what we call an Excel budget, which is processed on DYCD's internal system, or if you're doing what's called a POCR, a purchase order change request, in Passport. So I'm going to go through some of the differences and what needs to be done. Next slide, please. Next one. So the whole purpose of these slides is for you to understand DYCD's budget review and approval process in both CCMS and Passport. Next slide. So discretionary contracts under our fiscal agent, YMS, that are awarded $31,250 or less must submit an Excel paper budget. Any award, any contract that's above that amount, they have to have their budget submitted in Passport. The only caveat to this dollar amount is that if you have a DYCD RFP-based contract, then regardless of the amount, the budget would be processed in Passport.
Joe, can I ask you really quick, if they're processing a paper budget through YMS, does that go to YMS or does that go to you at DYCD or somebody at DYCD?
So that should go to your assigned program manager, who will then review it and then submit it to me for review and submission to our fiscal team. So the budgets have two approvals. The program side approval is done by myself. And then the fiscal side is done by our fiscal team.
Many times. You should have listened to him. We missing you. Can't hear.
Okay, so if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so regardless of how you process your budget, there are three main categories for the budgets. Salaries and fringe benefits, which is only for staff, right? So it would be on that section of the budget, it would be salaries, it would be fringe benefits, and CIP. And then you have other than personnel services, and you have indirect costs, which is a part of OTPS, and then you have what's called non-staff services, which would be subcontractors, consultants, vendors, stipends. Stipends are just for participants. They're not for volunteers. They're not for board members. A volunteer is exactly what is defined by Webster's, someone that gives something for nothing in return. When you volunteer, you do not get compensated. And stipends are only for program participants. Next slide, please. So again, this is what a YMS budget that would look like. It would have the different line items. Again, I mentioned personnel services, non-staff services, other than personnel services. If you are under YMS, you are not allowed to charge indirect costs. So again, if you're filling out this type of budget, you cannot fill out indirect costs. All of the expenses must be direct costs. Next slide, please. So then this would tell you basically how to complete page 2 of the budget, which you would have full-time employees, part-time employees. Please keep in mind that the minimum annual salary now for full-time employees is $29,700, and the minimum part-time hourly rate is $16.50 in the city of New York for part-time employees. Next slide. The difference between consultants, subcontractors, and vendors are basically whether someone is providing services directly to a participant of the program, if they're providing services to the organization as a whole on a programmatic side, or whether the services are non-programmatic in nature. So all three types of non-staff services can be corporations, for-profit, not-for-profit, corporations, or individuals. There are different requirements. Consultants for discretionary contracts must have the approval of the city council compliance and legal unit. Subcontractors must be approved by our procurement team, and vendors, there are no agreements. So just quickly to clarify who would be considered a vendor, it would basically be bookkeeping services, payroll services, website maintenance, cleaning services, security services. That's it. It's really limited in nature. And again, it's non-programmatic services. Next slide. Budget submissions in Passport. Provider submits the budget in Passport. We take a look at it here in discretionary. We do what's called the level 1 approval on our end. That's usually done by me. The level 2 review is done by our fiscal team. And if we go on to the next slide, there's key information here. Whatever is in black, these categories we can use. Anything that is in red is not a part of DYCD funded contracts. So We're not doing construction, deliverables, designs, milestones. And so everything that we have has to be considered in black. Next slide. So there's key information here. Again, I would strongly recommend going to the Nonprofit Help Desk website to get a copy and download a copy of this presentation, because if you do not list it correctly, it is going to be returned to you. So you need to put, like for the sub-budget code, the contract number, dash, budget code, slash, object code, slash, U of A. If you don't do that, then it's wrong. And it's going to be rejected. You have to enter a brief description of the cost for the budget line item, quantity and unit price. I know that it looks weird. Passport is done with the exception of equipment purchases in a reversed order. So in this case, it's not a quantity of 60,000 at $1 a piece. It's one unit at $60,000. And that's the way that it would have to be listed in the budget. Next slide. So which budget item category requires supporting documentation? Consultants, subcontractors, you're charging rent, you need the space cost allocation form, that's the 2-page document that I described earlier, as well as your current lease or rental agreement. And those would have to be uploaded with your passport budget. Next slide. So, budget line items, you have salaried and hourly positions. So salaried, obviously, are full-time employees, hourly or part-time positions. You have operations and support, you have utilities as part of the budget. Next slide. Again, salaried employees, in this case, you need to have the sub-budget code, as I previously mentioned. You have to have the salaried employees, the budget line item, the amount. So all of this would need to be filled out completely. Next slide. Operations and support. For the budget line item, you will put down uniforms, raw food, emissions, tickets. I would separate them. Otherwise, if you don't separate them, then you would have to detail the amount for each category. Next slide. For utilities, you would put down utilities. I would separate it again. If it's phone, if it's gas, if it's electric, if it's water, you would have to separate those and list them out. Next slide. Operations and support. For equipment, this is the only item category that can be used for equipment purchases. No other line item category can be used. Due to the calculation of the indirect formula and passport, allocation of this category must include the number of items in the quantity field and the cost per item, because I'm not sure if you have submitted a budget in passport with indirect costs. It's no longer a straight 10% of the total budget. Passport excludes rent that's charged to the budget, consultants, subcontractors, equipment that is purchased, and all of that gets backed out of the amount. Next slide. I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are reasons for budget rejections. You know, again, everything must be complete and accurate. If you have any questions, your first line of defense is reaching out to your program manager. Him or her will be able to help you with that. Next slide. This resource page is fantastic. It will take you to the fiscal manual, budget forms, mock training. If you have any fiscal questions in regards to where is my payment? How come I haven't received my payment? You can email budget and finance help at dycd.nyc.gov. That's a very important page to use. Next slide. All right, I'm going to go in to where we are now with contracts. So Mox, in agreement with the city council as well as DYCD and other city agencies, have made discretionary contracts 3-year contracts, but they still need to be processed separately for each fiscal year, because the city's fiscal year can only run on an annual basis. So what you need to make sure of is that you apply for discretionary funding, that you um, um, apply every year for the funding, and that you submit a separate budget and work scope every fiscal year. Make sure your capacity building training and your pre-qualification does not expire. Each is good for 3 years. If it expires, then it becomes a problem with you being removed from the cleared list. Make sure that you're up to date with your charity bureau filings with the New York State Attorney General's office. That's your TRI 500, your 990, your audit if you're required to do that. Make sure that your insurances are approved and doesn't become expired. Subcontractors must have an active account in the payee information portal and Passport. When you're uploading contract documents for the first year of your contract in Passport, you need to make sure that the LL34 tab is completed accurately and completely, as well as the site tab. Every contract over $20,000 will have 2 site visits done, and those under 20,000 will have 1 desk review. Next slide. I went through this. It's a duplicate side on that. The difference. All right, now we're going to go through the procurement process. So you apply for city council funding, you're awarded, you complete all your contract documents, we get your budget approved, we complete what's called the authoring document, and what happens next? You return the authoring document and Passport, then I would send the contract to our procurement team in order to get the responsibility determination done and to eventually get your contract registered. Next slide. So what our procurement team, what they do is that they follow the New York City Procurement Policy Board rules that states that contracts should only be made to responsible contractors and a business integrity check needs to be completed. That means that if you are an executive of the organization or if you're a board member, you don't owe any delinquent real estate taxes, water bills, parking tickets, that there's no adverse information that is found. So we all know City Harvest, right? City Harvest receives a lot of money from the city of New York. If they have a parking ticket, it can hold up a $3 million contract based upon a parking ticket for $150. So that's what we need to make sure of. Next slide. So required documents for responsibility determinations is the client abuse and neglect certification form. It's only valid for 6 months from when it's signed. The LL34 in Passport, and your charities compliance, STAR 500, 990, and or audit. So again, if these are not up to date or if these are not completed, it will hinder your contract from getting registered. Next slide. Avoid delays. Don't have any expired charity filings, insurance, passport disclosure, have any outstanding liens or warrants or adverse information. Any contract that's over $100,000 requires a DOI vendor name check as well as a public hearing that will make the registration process a little bit longer. Next slide. If you have any questions regarding your contract with our procurement team, you can email echo@dycd.nyc.gov. Again, that's echo@dycd.nyc.gov. Next slide. All right. Whenever we have these meetings in person, I always introduce my colleague Alfred Ajapong as the most important person in the room because he's the money guy. He's the guy that makes sure that after you do all this work to get this contract done, right, and you run your program, that you actually get paid, right? So at the end of the day, it's all about receiving the funds. Next slide. All right, invoice and payments. So we're going to invoice two different ways. If you're under DYCD's fiscal agent, YMS will reach out to you and make you complete some forms, including a designated signature form, and then you can submit the expenses to YMS, and then they would reimburse your organization. If you're not under the fiscal agent, after your POCR is approved in Passport, and it's approved by both programs and fiscal, then you would have to submit invoices under the active purchase order, and the status must state active. If you're allocated salaries and fringe benefits, you need to upload a completed salaries and wage justification detailed workbook. It's an Excel document. Again, the Passport invoice, right, for the titles must match what's in the POCR approved budget. Equipment claims has to have a completed equipment purchase inventory report. And everything needs to match. So if you submit a budget that says that we're going to pay a program director $50,000, you can't submit an invoice claiming $60,000 for that program director. Again, it just a lot of it makes sense, but that's what needs to be done. Next slide. If you have any questions, again, regarding payments, you can email budget and finance help at dycd.nyc.gov. And that's a link to our fiscal manual for both Passport budgets as well as YMS fiscal agent budgets. Next slide. All right, questions. If you have any questions about your contract status, you should reach out to your program manager, or you can call our hotline. It's on everyone's desk here, 646-343-6060. We do have a website, which is the second bullet, which has all of the contract documents that are required. The third link is everything regarding fiscal, your budget, your fiscal manuals, Mayor's Office of Contract Services, that will take you to the MOX website where you can either open up a MOX help desk ticket, you can take a look at the tutorials and videos that they have on Passport. The next one is something that's very, very important. It's the discretionary award tracker. That will list each and every allocation that is made by the City Council for fiscal years 24 and 25 and their status and what agency is processing those awards. So if it says pending council clearance, you have to reach out to your council member. What hasn't been done that these awards are not cleared. And then the last one is the council's website, which has Schedule C, which details all discretionary contracts. Next slide. Now, I turn it back to Tamara.
Joe, thank you so much. That was a treasure trove of amazing information and really, really knowledgeable. Thank you so much. I'm going to, at this point, open it up to anybody who'd like to place a question in the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand and unmute, we can certainly do that as well. In the meantime, while we're waiting for those questions to start rolling in, Joe, I have a couple of questions that came in our registration section.
Sure.
So you have outlined this a little bit, but if we can just do a quick overview of like high level, what are the steps once you've been awarded discretionary funding, sort of what are the next steps that happen?
Can you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
So once an organization has received a letter saying you've been awarded discretionary funding, you know, what are the steps? I know they have to make sure
Okay.
their HHS
So-
pre-qualification is done, etc.
So once when the city council designates an organization to receive an award, then you have to go what's through the clearance process. The clearance process is handled by city council finance, city council legal, and their compliance units, as well as the mayor's office of contract services. So yes, you need to make sure that your pre-qualification is up to date. That used to be done in HHS Accelerator. That's now done in Passport. You need to make sure that as a part of that, you have your conflict of interest policy uploaded, that you have a sexual harassment policy, and that's uploaded, that you are up to date with your Chart 500, your 990, your capacity building training, which is an online training that's done by Mox. So once when you do all of that, then you would get what's called cleared, and you would um, come on what's called our cleared list. So once when you do that, then um, then every city agency would receive that cleared list and then generate a contract. And then that's when the contract process starts with DYCD or whatever agency those funds are allocated to.
Great. And then if they're going to be assigned to DYCD as their contracting agency, they'll get a communication from their program officer, correct?
So-
Saying, here's the documents that you need to do with us now.
So there's a couple of steps. You would get a system generated letter indicating who your program manager is with his or her or their information, name, phone number, email address. And then the program manager would send out what's called the welcome email, which will indicate how much you've been allocated by the city council, what the purpose of funds are, and either the forms that you have to fill out or a link to our website with all of the forms. Again, your program manager is your first line of defense, which if you do not know who your program manager is, you can always call our hotline and we can look that up for you.
Amazing. Thank you. And then what is the rough timeline? We know award notices generally go out in July, the beginning each year, which is the beginning of the city's fiscal year every year. But what is the sort of the other timeline for the other pieces?
So we generally get our first cleared awards anywhere as soon as the last week of August all the way to the first week of October from Mox. So until we get that first cleared list, we can't do anything with the allocations without the award. And from there, it really depends upon if you complete your contract documents correctly. And if you do, depends upon the dollar amount of the contract. We register contracts internally that total $20,000. So that takes a quicker turnaround time. But if you're above that, it also has to go to the controller's office. Again, I recommend doing a Teams call with your program manager, or if you can come into our office. We do have public terminals. We try to make it as easy as possible for the providers. I know that it's daunting. There's some things that we can do in Passport and some things that we can't, but we're here to assist you.
Thank you. Somebody asked about budget approval. I know that once it goes to the comptroller, they have 30 days to respond to register that contract. But what's basically the timeline for budget approval before it gets to the comptroller?
So the comptroller is not involved with the budget approval process. The comptroller is involved in getting the contracts registered in the city's financial management system. So the comptroller's office does have up to 30 days to register the contract or reject it back to the city agency. It really depends. It generally takes about 3 weeks in order for the comptroller's office to register a contract. I have seen cases where it's been faster. I have seen cases where it's been longer, but generally speaking, about 3 weeks it takes from when the comptroller's office receives the contract to get it registered.
Terrific, thank you. I'm gonna kind of jump over to a couple of questions that I've gotten in the chat. One is from Dorothy. Dorothy, you're welcome to unmute if you'd like. Just kind of asking about the budget's been approved, but the contract hasn't yet been registered, and how long does that process take? But Dorothy, you're off mute. You're welcome to ask your question.
Yes, hi, thank you. So yes, so we received an email saying, congratulations, your budget was approved. YMS contacted them, which they are phenomenal. We sent them our invoices because we're almost 2 years in. We're just being funding for fiscal year 2024. We sent all our invoices, YMS approved it, and then I say, okay, well, can y'all cut the check? Could we do direct deposit? And they say, no, your budget needs to be registered. And I'm thinking, shouldn't it have been registered before it was approved?
Do you have your contract number? And what fiscal year are you talking about? Is it 23 or 24?
We're on fiscal year 2024.
Okay.
Okay, I will give it to you in 1 second. Let me pull it
It
right
would
up.
it would be 6 digits and it start 93 and ending in B.
Yes, hold on. It is 931
Mhm.
232B.
Destiny Bound?
Yes.
Okay. Yep, I do not see it as being registered. I'll follow up. Has Nadira reached out to you on this contract?
We've been kind of back and forth, and I
Mhm.
did ask her, and she said it would be a couple of weeks. But
Okay.
I'm not understanding the process of why does it not get registered before it gets approved?
So the process, and I wish that YMS wouldn't send out those letters when they do, because your budget is approved. That's why YMS was notified, but the contract isn't registered. And there's a difference between having a budget that's approved and having a contract that's registered. What we can do is that you're cleared for $10,000. We can send you the information for you to apply for the returnable grant fund loan.
We
which
did
is
that.
a 0% interest loan.
We did that.
Did you receive the loan? Because
Nope, we have not. Then we applied for the loan.
Okay.
And then after we applied for the loan and we submitted some paperwork, after that, the next thing we did was we received the letter saying that our budget was approved. So we figured because we applied for the loan, it expedited the budget. But no, we haven't received that either.
So what I would do, Ms. Carter, on that, I would follow up on the loan application.
Okay.
And if you want, you can copy me on that email. I'll follow up with my colleagues.
Okay.
So it's J Kovac, JKOVAC.
Yes, I have your email.
It's like the city's least secretive email.
Right. Okay, thank you. I will definitely follow up with first thing in the morning.
And please copy me and copy Nadira as well.
Okay, okay, I definitely will.
My pleasure.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Joe, I love this. We're getting stuff done tonight. I love that. Thank you. There's a question in the chat if Amani would like to unmute, asking, can we do IOUs for payroll and subcontractors until we get our funding?
Yeah.
What do you mean by IOU?
So instead of like paying them beforehand, are we able to like just have the invoice pending from them until we put in for the funds?
Okay, so technically the way that discretionary contracts work, they are reimbursement based, which means that you have to lay out the funds within the fiscal year that you're awarded the funds. And when the contract is registered, then you will get reimbursed. Again, in this case, what I would do is I would apply for a loan through the Fund for the City of New York. It's a 0% interest loan. They could do, depending upon what the line item budget categories are, approve up to 70%. It's not an area that I oversee. I just know general basic data. I don't get into the specifics of what's allowable, what's not allowable. But how much is your allocation from the council?
$37,500
Is that for the 3 years or for 1 year?
for 3 years.
For the 3 years. So you'll be under YMS. So what we can do is, have you paid them? If you paid them, then you
I
would
haven't.
just get.
I
Oh, you
haven't.
haven't. Okay. So when the contract is registered, then YMS can pay them directly on your behalf. Just make sure that you're under YMS. And who's your assigned program manager?
That I'm not sure of.
All right. Do you have your contract number or hang on, let's go back.
Yeah.
What fiscal year? 24?
Yeah, 2024.
Okay. Contract number 93, shoot.
26025L01370001.
No, that's the E-pen. So the E-pen would start 260
Yes, that's the
24L, and then it would have like 5 or 6 other digits. I forget. What I'm looking for is a 6-digit number with a V.
with the letter.
Yeah, with the letter V. If not, give me the name of your organization.
This is a 6 digits. 930042, and then it has a W actually.
Okay. Oh, and W. So it's a 25 contract. 930.
Sorry, 24.
Okay,
Can you repeat that?
930042 W. And I have the contract start date is saying July 2024.
Yeah, this is you would be under YMS, but this is incorrect. Oh wait, no, it's correct. Yes, it's 7/1/24 to 6/30/25. Then it's
Yes.
7/1/25 to 6/30/26. Then 7/1/26 through 6/30/27. That's why it shows a 24 to 27 period. It's a fiscal year 25 multi-year contract. So you would be under YMS. I would reach out to Nadira for follow-up on this.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Next question.
You. Beijing, if I said your name correctly, you're welcome to unmute. Asked, how do you know what to fill in the sub-budget portion in Passport?
So the sub-budget portion, that you would get from your program manager, it would be your contract number. So it's the 6 digits with the V most likely, then the dash, then it's the budget code, object code. All that information comes from the cleared list. So you would get that from your program manager as well. They'll be able to help you.
Okay, thank you.
Someone asked, You're welcome. Did you want to follow up on that application? Or are you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Somebody asked, how does the discretionary tracker correlate to passport?
So if your award in the discretionary tracker does not show as cleared, your contract shell and passport will not show in progress or active. So if you're not cleared, you would either not see a passport shell or the status of the shell would be canceled.
Okay, Eugene, you're welcome to unmute. Ask, what's the process of getting a returnable grant fund?
So you would have to
Mm.
fill out the RFG loan application. We would need to have an approved budget on file. And in addition to that, there may be some additional information that the loan unit is requesting. Once when they complete everything and they do what's called their responsibility determination again to make sure that you are an entity that can contract with the city of New York, they would submit that to Mox and to the fund for the city of New York to get the loan approved.
And just for everybody, I am dropping in the chat a link to the mock site about the RFG. Ethel asks, if contracts are greater than $100,000 require a hearing, does that apply to the 3-year contract amount or to the yearly amount?
So it's a great question. It's the 3-year amount because we're registering the 3-year amount. They do those public hearings in groups. So they have to publish a notice in the city record indicating that there's a public hearing for DYCD. In my, God, it's going to be 25 years at DYCD. I probably have only seen a public hearing where people attended maybe 6 or 7 times. No one comes, but it's just something that we need to do legally in order to have the contract become effectuated and valid. So again, we have these guidelines and these rules by the Procurement Policy Board, but if we don't follow them, then it nullifies the contract.
Thanks, Joe.
And I'm not an attorney, but I play one on TV.
Exactly, and you're doing a great job. Somebody asked, what if your parking tickets are in a payment plan through the Department of Finance?
So that's a great question. So prior to coming to the DYCD, I worked at the Department of Finance. I was actually the tax lien ombudsman. And in order to be considered having a payment agreement, it needs to be a formal agreement that is signed by the entity in question plus the Department of Finance. You can't just say, oh yeah, I pay, $100 a month on the delinquent parking tickets. As long as it's a formally executed agreement, then that's fine. And that would be acceptable, even though that it does show that there is outstanding debt to the city of New York.
Thank you. I'll take this one if you don't mind. Somebody just asked, when does the next discretionary funding application period open? They open every year in January. They're due usually mid-February. So the next opportunity to apply would be in January of 2026. So someone else asked, I just formed a 501c3. I submitted for discretionary funds and I don't know my next move. Your next move is going to be to kind of sit back and wait because they'll announce who is receiving discretionary funding. You'll hear probably from your council member's office if you are awarded a grant sometime in July.
Thank you.
Joe, if you want to add anything to that.
Thank you very much. That was me. I just got it in, so I don't know how the process. I don't have a mentor. I don't have direction. I'm doing everything ad hoc. So if there was something that I can peruse, or if there was a class that the city was given, that would be very helpful, because it's like the blind leading the blind. But I was referred to this Zoom, and I feel like it's echelons above my understanding right now. So if I can get some direction, that would be nice. Thank you.
So what exactly are you looking for advice in? If you could just clarify.
Well, I just formed a 501c3. I put in for the discretionary funds. I send a couple of emails out, and that's it. I don't know if they're supposed to
Okay.
respond to me, and I don't know if
So
I'm supposed to go make a presentation somewhere. I don't know anything.
sure. Okay. So since you just applied for council funding in January or February, the city council and the mayor have not agreed upon a budget yet, so nothing has been determined as to who and how much anyone will receive for fiscal year 26. They won't agree upon the upon the budget until after the primary. So it's going to be the last couple of days of June. So when that happens, what I would do if I was you, as soon as you hear that the mayor and the council agreed upon the budget, I would go to the council's website and search discretionary funding through your EIN number to see if you were allocated any money. Or you can follow up with the council members that you applied to.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Good luck.
I think we are lucky enough to have Joe for just a couple more minutes. So if anybody else wants to put any questions in the chat, you're welcome to. I'm just going to ask a couple other questions that were submitted earlier. And so one is, with multi-year contracts, does the work scope have to be resubmitted each year?
Work scope and budget needs to be submitted each year because they're both considered annual documents. The other documents that you have submitted and uploaded in Passport, as long as that person is still with the organization, it would be valid for all 3 years. The only thing you would have to do every year is budget, work scope, and your insurance documents.
Thank you. As a charter school, would we qualify for funding?
We have funded charter schools, and again, it depends upon the city council if they choose to designate funding to your charter school. Again, DYCD does not allocate the funds. We administered the funds on behalf of the city council. So if the city council does want to fund your charter school, they would do that. I hope you applied for funding during the time period. If not, then you would have to wait for fiscal year 27 funding.
Thanks. Somebody had asked, how can a small business that is a grassroots organization receive discretionary funding?
So when you say a small business, are you a not-for-profit or a for-profit entity?
It does not say. This was one of the questions that was submitted as part of the registration.
Okay, so if it's a for-profit entity, they're not allowed to contract directly. If they're not for profit, then they need to do that.
Yeah. So I think the thing we want to just emphasize is that only nonprofit organizations can receive discretionary funding. For-profit businesses are not eligible to participate in the program. We have 2 more questions in the chat. Somebody asked, what's the process for modifying a budget? Is it lengthy?
So again, it depends. You would either do a budget modification if you're under YMS through the Excel budget. And if you're doing your budget in Passport, then you would have to submit another POCR. It's not lengthy, it's just that with Passport, our fiscal department does have a little bit of a backlog in processing budgets.
Thank you. Somebody asked if applications can be submitted directly to the council member outside of the standard application period. I'll answer that one. The answer is no. Discretionary funding applications go through the city council's website, and that application period for this year ended, I think it was February 21st or 20th this year. So you'll have to wait until next year, but this is a good time of year once the budget is finished in July to get to know your council members if you don't already. So wait until the budget season's over by June 30th or the beginning of July, and then you can start getting to know your council members. But you can't apply until the application opens again until January. Joe, if you have anything you'd like to add to that.
No,
Okay.
that's it, and that's what we do. You have to apply within the time frame. If you don't apply, then you don't get awarded. There's no circumventing that.
Jason asked 2 questions. When will you find out the grant is registered, and will the invoicing for FY25 be done in Passport?
And it
Jason, you're
depends.
welcome to unmute.
Yeah. Jason, how much is your contract for?
That's just it. I think they're doing a combination. I think it's 300 and something thousand.
Mm-hmm.
I think 345 roughly. So I'm trying to, I know in the previous years you had to do a manual report, like sent out by PERS.
Mm-hmm.
And I know now this year everything got converted from HHS to Passport. So my question is, will your invoicing be done in Passport, or do you still have to do manual PERS?
Okay. Do you have your contract number?
Not with me. Not with me. Because
All right.
Go ahead.
What's the name of your organization?
Cypress Hills Local Development Corporation.
Okay. I think you have Louis Aracena as your program manager.
I have to find out because I know
Okay.
I have to check in the system. I was just curious because I saw that one of the small grants that was in Passport for 10K, and that was from Department of Aging, if I'm not mistaken, DFTA. I saw that one in Passport, but I don't know about the other discretionary money. Or I just want to know, would they be doing it in Passport, or they still want you to do it?
So as long as you don't have any of the former Mach J allocations for fiscal year 24, you would submit PERS. For fiscal year 25, you would submit it through Passport.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that our attendees tonight can get right here to you, Joe, and just get those answers right off the top of your head. It's amazing. I'm going to say thank you again for being here tonight and taking all this time. If you have any parting words of wisdom, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, I would just say, if you have any questions, follow up with your program manager. If your contracts are not registered, follow up with your program manager. I am having a staff meeting to finalize, especially the older contracts that we have from fiscal years 22 and 23. So we're only working on one system. So we're working on the multi-year contracts. And if you have any questions, most of you have my email. You can call me. You can call the hotline. We're here to help. I'm here to help. And again, reach out to your program managers. Whatever help we can give, we're here to give.
Joe, thank you so much for being here this evening. I really appreciate it. On behalf of the Nonprofit Help Desk and JCC-GCI, thank you all for your attending. And again, a big round of applause to Joe. I'm going to give you your evening back.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. If there's any other questions, you can feel free to reach out to Joe directly, or feel free to reach out to us here at the Nonprofit Help Desk. Everyone have a great evening. Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Can we have an email address for Joe to reach him directly, please? Hello?